Feel free to fast forward in this video to the 10-minute mark if you'd like to follow the recipe for canning onions for French onion soup. The beginning is just the guidelines from the National Center of Home Food Preservation. Well, welcome back to Southern Mountain Homemaker. I am so glad you can join me today in my kitchen. Today we are going to be learning how to can onions. I love to make French onion soup in my home, and we just absolutely love a good French onion soup with cheese melted all in it and croutons and bread on top. So I thought, you know what? That would be a wonderful video to share with you on how to make a recipe for canning French onion soup. And basically what I'm going to be doing today is a base for it because you can't add the cheese or the cream. And if you follow any guidelines, and I'm pretty sure you that are more seasoned in canning know that according to the guidelines, you cannot add any thickening agent, cream, flour, rice, pasta, anything like that to your recipes before you can it. So we won't be adding those ingredients, but I will be adding the rest of my ingredients to this recipe as a base soup. So that way when I go to prepare it later on and open that jar, all I have to do is add my cheese to it. And if I want to tweak it with a little more seasoning or maybe add a little more beef stock to it, I can. You know, you can always add to your recipe, but when you're canning, you need to follow the guidelines of what the National Center of Home Food Preservation is. So we're going to go over that just a little bit. I want to touch on that a little bit. I have here not really a recipe. When you go on the National Center of Home Food Preservation.org, their website, and you type in French onion soup, there is no recipe for that. So I just want to let you know that you're not going to find that recipe on there, and it's hard to find one for canning, but they will guide you to the soup section, and they suggest and recommend that you follow the soup guideline for making French onion soup. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow that. We're not going to add those thickening agents that should not be in your recipe. We're not going to do that. So that is one of the guidelines that they say. You can't add pasta, noodles, rice, flour, cream, or milk, or thickening agents. If your dried beans or peas are used, they must be fully rehydrated. And that's another thing. Whenever you have, even now, there was a news flash on that actual website. And I recommend if you're new to canning, you want to go on that website because that's our national, matter of fact, it's based here at the University of Georgia in the state that I'm in. You want to go on that website and follow the guidelines for our country in home food preservation. And so we're going to do our best to follow those guidelines today. But you want to wash and prepare and prep your food and make sure that it's very clean and washed and you got it ready to go. You also, when it comes to rehydrating like beans or dried beans, you also got to think about bouillon cubes or dry powders. According to the news flash, I'll get back to that here right now. So it says that they want you from now on to not just drop a bouillon cube in the jar and then put the lid on it. They want you to rehydrate that bouillon cube according to the direction on the packaging that bouillon cube came in, and rehydrate it first and then add it to your recipe. So you want to go ahead and prepare that bouillon cube with water and get it prepared first separate, and then from that container add whatever you need to. If you need a cup of beef broth, made from bouillon cube or chicken stock, you would add it to it that way. And in other words, they're trying to stop people from just adding the dry cubes into the jar and then putting the lid on it and let it dissolve while it's canning. So they want you to get away from that. And I'm sitting here looking. I have my jars, and I'm going to show you that. I already got my quart size jars. That's what I'm going to be using for my soup. I got it in my canner here, and I'm letting it come up to 180 degrees. They've already been washed with soapy water, hot soapy water, cleaned, dried, and not dry, but cleaned and washed. And then I added it in this water, covering it. You got to cover it at least an inch above the jars, and it has to come up to 180 degrees. So I'm doing that while I'm preparing this recipe and making this video for you. And then it gives you another table if you're using only a weighted gauge. For quart size jars, you're going to go 75 minutes, and for my elevation, you're going to go I'm above 1,000 feet. I'm 1,400. You're going to use 15 pounds. So that's what I'm going to do, and we should be just fine. It also, another thing that I've noticed, that I've seen some of the videos that come out, they're talking about where some of the guidelines, you go on there and it can be very confusing to new beginners. They're talking about you don't want to add fats or oils to your recipes before you can it, because it could hinder the heating process and killing off any bad bacteria, botulism that would grow after that jar has been sealed and the oxygen is out of the jar. Botulism spores can grow in that environment. You wouldn't think it would, but it does grow in an oxygen-free environment. And so they're saying when you add fats and oils to your recipe, the heat cannot penetrate that oil and fat correctly, and therefore there is a risk of some of those spores not being killed off. And the way they are normally killed off in canning processing is a pressure canner. So whenever you're dealing with low acid foods, they highly recommend that you use a pressure canner. And the reason why, it gets high temperature of a 240 degrees, and it will kill off those spores. But what's so confusing, when you go in and you begin to pull out some of the recipes, like for jam, it'll say add a little butter fat, couple slices of butter to it to help with the foam. Or they'll tell you for spaghetti sauce without meat, you can saute your vegetables in 1/4 cup of vegetable oils. So that's almost contradicting their guidelines there. So I want to explain that a little bit for you so you can understand the reason why they say that. You just don't want to add a lot to your recipes, and if you can avoid that altogether, you're better off. But most certainly, these are proven recipes right on the National Center of Home Food Preservation that they allow that to saute your vegetables. So you have to use discretion. You have to, really think about what you prefer for your family. Now, if I see this and I see that it's okay with them, then I'm not going to have a problem with putting a little oil in my pan and sauteing my vegetables for my recipe before I can it. But you may still feel funny about that and may not want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. So I wanted to put this up front so that you would know that, I totally understand that. And there are ways you could just add a little water to the bottom of your pan. You do not have to add the butter and the fat to this, but I will be using it because I feel like it's okay. They use it for their tomato sauce. So I will be using a little bit of oil just to saute my onions today. So you know, when in doubt, do your research, get on there, and that's the guidelines that you want to go with. That's some of the things I wanted to cover in this video, but now let's get started with the actual recipe. I did 30 pounds of Vidalia onions and I sliced them, and in my video, I'm going to share with you and show you how I actually sliced them and prepared my onions. So I hope you'll enjoy watching the little clips that I show you. Okay, here I am the day before prepping my food to start my recipe. You most certainly can do this the day before if you don't want to do it all in one day. It will take a long time to do this. Pretty much most of the day if you do it from the early morning all the way into the evening. So I divide it up into 2 days. So I'm getting my onions prepped and ready to go for this recipe. Okay, let's get started, and I'm going to start slicing these onions. I'm going to peel these, then I'm going to wash them real good, and then I'm going to slice these right across here like you would do a hamburger slice where they're a whole slice. And I'm going to use my little handy little slicer here with a slicing blade because that's a lot of onions to be doing by hand. You most certainly, if you don't have these, you can get you a good sharp knife, and I got me a good wedge knife here. I forgot what these called, but I love this. And it does just fine as well, but you can most certainly, any sharp knife, you can do it. The reason why I'm trying to find something to do it quicker is because I'm going to be in this kitchen crying, ladies. I'm going to be bawling like a baby doing these onions. And so the faster I can get it done, I'm all for that. So I'm going to use my little gadget to get these slices into hamburger slices. I like them that thick. And then what I'm going to do is take my knife, that little round hamburger slice of onions, I'm just going to cut it in half to where you have like a moon-shaped crest pieces of onions. That's how I like my onions for my French onion soup. And I don't want them chopped. I want them in little half slices, moon-shaped crest slices. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cleaned up, peeled clean, and start my slicing. And I'm not going to show you all that. That's just too much, you know, but I will start right now showing you how I'm going to prepare the recipe and then get them in the candy jars and get them processed in my canner. Remember, if you're using old jars, always use new lids. Do not use old lids. Get you some new lids. So we got some new lids for my wide mouth jars, and I can use my old rings. So make sure they're in good shape, and make sure your jars have no nicks or cracks and that they're in good shape and ready to start your canning before you even sterilize them. So that's another good tip. Always like to remind you. So let's get started. Enough talk, and we'll get in here and get this recipe going for you. Okay, here we go. Here's our first step. You want to make sure that you peel your onions and then you give them a really good wash. Make sure there's no dirt or any debris on your onions. You want them very clean for canning any kind of vegetables. You want to make sure that they're cleaned really well. And here I'm showing you the finished product of everything cleaned and washed and ready to go. And the next step, we're going to start our slicing. I'm using just a little gadget here that slices and makes really perfect little hamburger slices, and it really worked very well for me. This is the size I like for my onion soup, and it just made it so much easier than having to do it by hand with a knife. And if that's all you have, you can do that. It just takes a little longer. But here's the little hamburger slices, I call them. And I started out cutting them with a knife in half, each little slice. After I did one onion bulb, I took time after each one and cut it in half. But that just took too long. I realized I could do it by hand, and so you'll see here where I'm breaking the onion apart, and I really wanted to move through this pretty quickly And I just picked up the onion slice and just broke it in half, the whole thing, by hand. And you can do this. Just, there you go, see? It just breaks apart in half. So that made it so much quicker and so much easier. So give it a try. And you'll find it's a lot easier to do it that way. Just break up all the little big pieces. Oh my, I was brought to tears doing these onions, folks. The smell of these onions were so potent and just, it was just so strong. I smelt like one big onions, and I tell you, I was crying. I will warn you, you will cry a lot doing these onions. Next step is the ingredients. So I'm getting all the ingredients ready to start the recipe.
I forgot one ingredient while I'm remembering it. I do add Worcestershire sauce to mine. I'm not real crazy about adding balsamic vinegar to my onion soup or brown sugar. I just don't want a sweet, to me that's too sweet on the onions. It'll make them really sweet, and I really don't want that for my French onion soup. So I'm going to use the ingredients that I actually make my onion soup with, and that's going to be with onion powder. I got some onion powder here, and I'm not going to give you measurements because I'm just going to eyeball it, because I'm dealing with 30 pounds here and there is no recipe out there for me to go exact with. So you use what you like in yours. I'm using ground, I had coarse ground black pepper that I ground up myself. I also have some, that here was actual garlic powder, sorry. I don't know if I said that or not. This is onion powder, so I'm going to be using onion powder. And then I'm going to also have some salt. And I'm also going to be using a couple of these little quart size beef broth. It has no thickening agent, therefore you need to really follow, even with what you're using in there, make sure there's no thickening agents in your broth. And so we're going to be using that. I had these on hand, so I'm going to add it to it. Now then, if I would have just did this with straight water, which that's what I was originally going to do, but I saw these in here and I was going to add it anyway. If you do it with just straight water, it's not going to taste like French onion soup in the jar. And it's really not going to taste like it to a T right now when I make this base soup. I'm going to have to tweak it after I empty my jar into the pot after we're all done with it. So you're going to have to tweak it with more seasoning, more broth, to make it taste more authentic French onion soup. This is just cooking the onions down and giving it some flavor. So all I have to do is just tweak it. I don't have to do all the sauteing. I don't have to do all that. It's pretty much going to be cooked. So I just got to add flavor to it. A little wine. That's another. Also, I use Marsala wine. I have here just the cooking wine. It is heavy in salt, so you need to take that. It's not like regular wine, or you can actually use real wine. I've done that in the past as well. But this is what we have on hand, and we're going to use that in my. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and in my pan, I'm going to go ahead and pour probably like 1/4 of a cup. I'm just going to eyeball it of some oil in the bottom of my pan. I'm also going to put just a little bit in this other one, not a lot. That's not even probably 2 tablespoons. But this bigger one, I'm really wanting to saute these. This one in the back, I have 2 pots here. This one, I'm just going to let them sweat. Let me explain this. Sweating means you do it on low or medium heat. We'll probably do it on medium heat. Put a lid on it and let it sweat. In other words, I'm not going to add any liquid to it. I'm doing it on low heat. And if I need to turn it all the way down low, I will, because I don't want to caramelize these onions. The pot in the front, I will be caramelizing these. And the reason why I want to caramelize these onions, I'm going to just take about 1/3 of my 30 pounds of onions and I'm going to caramelize these. And the reason why you caramelize them is you want that sugar and that flavor to come out of those onions. And it will become translucent. And all that goodness will come out of that onion, and that's what gives your French onion soup some flavor. So that's what I want to do. I want to saute these in 1/4 cup of oil and really get it caramelized in here. And I'm going to put a lid on this and just let it do it slowly, and then I'm going to take the lid off and really try to evaporate some of that liquid in here and let it start browning and the onions become translucent. And then I'm going to actually on this pot in the back, I'm only going to cook it to where it just starts to turn translucent. I want it to still kind of look white like a regular raw onion, but it's just starting to turn translucent, and then I'm turning off the heat. I'm not doing any more. And the reason why is because when you pressure can, you're going to be doing it for 75 minutes. It's going to really cook those onions. So I don't, the majority of my onion, 2/3 of it, I don't want it to be like mush or a big clumpy mess. So this is how I fix that. And I tell you, I smell onions all night. You talking about a crybaby? I was a crybaby. So be prepared. This took me a while. I started in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, peeling onions and chopping onions till about, I want to say, 8:30 last night, and cleaned up my mess, and then put these in the refrigerator. I could not do no more. So if you're going to do this all in one day, you need to start early in the morning. And so I just went ahead and covered this with wax paper and aluminum foil and just stuck them in my refrigerator. But it smells like an onion factory. This whole house smelled like onions. So be prepared. I went to church today. My hair smelled like onion. Everything smelled like onions. And I had to take a quick bath this morning to get this everything done, but my hair didn't have time for that. But anyway, just be prepared. You're going to smell like an onions, but it's fun. Anyway, okay, I want to give you a close-up on my actual onions here. This is about 1/3 of the onions that I had in both my bowls, and I'm going to let this caramelize real good. So I had it on high heat for just a minute or two to get the heat going, and then I turned it down on low, and that's what you want to do. And I did the same back here. I have this on low and I got a lid on it. I'm not adding any liquid at this point. I'm just sweating the onions. And like I said, this one in the back, I'm not going to caramelize. I'm just going to bring it to that translucent state just as it starts to turn translucent. So I got to really watch it. I just want to keep them a little firm, I guess is what I'm trying to say, not fully cooked. This one will be fully cooked. This is 1/3 of the onions because I want the flavor. But I don't want 2/3 of my 30 pounds to be caramelized because I want it to finish cooking in the I don't want it mush in the pressure canner, and I've already explained that. So, and I have a whole nother big bowl. I'm showing you my messy that's in here, folks, that I gotta pull out. I don't know if you can see that. I'm showing you my messy fridge. Anyway, so we're getting this thing going. This is the recipe. So it's going to take a while, so be prepared. It's not something like a video in 30 minutes, boom. This is a full day job, or 2 days. It's taken me 2 days because I started so late. So take that in account when you're canning. If I had a big Cajun canner, I could really do this a lot better, maybe a couple of them, big pots, but I don't, and I don't have room in my kitchen really to put all this on my stove, so I'm having to improvise a little bit. So anyway, look at this. It's starting to turn translucent, and you can see through the onion a little. That one you can actually see. My hands are clean. I've washed them with soap, and you can start. So these are about ready. Like I said, I'm gonna give it about 5 more minutes under the lid. Okay, so this is what you want with the rest of your onions. The other 2/3, the rest of your onions, you want to make them at this point, and don't go any further. But this batch, this 1/3 of my onions, I'm going to caramelize and go all the way. So I'm really going to cook this down till it's done. So what we're going to do is go ahead. I'm going to start adding some seasonings. And like I said, and I'm going to do about a tablespoon of onion powder for this little small batch. Each batch I'm going to add about a tablespoon. Just a little bit more. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of pepper. I know that seems like a lot, but I love flavor, so forgive me if I seem like I'm putting a lot in here. And now I'm going to do some garlic powder, about a tablespoon in this batch. And then we're also going to put, I'm going to do about a teaspoon of salt, because I'm adding in this batch, this 1/3 batch, and we'll do the same back here. That's probably about a tablespoon. I'm going to add this to that. Maybe not all that. I'm just eyeballing it. About a tablespoon pepper. Onion powder. So we got garlic powder, onion powder, and pepper, and about a teaspoon of salt. And that's all I'm going to add in there, because some of my ingredients have salt in it. And okay, I want to show you this in the back. This is my rest of my onions that I'm cooking down, and this is how I'm going to cook the rest of them. They still have some white to the actual onion. I don't know if you can see that, but they're starting to turn a little translucent. See, some of them are. I've turned the heat off this batch. This is ready to be jarred up. So what I'm going to do is turn the heat off this batch, and I'm going to start adding some Marsala cooking wine, and I'm just going to use discretion. You know what I want. I'm just maybe doing about no more than half a cup to that little batch. And then this one I'm going to go, this one's really cooking down. I am going to add a little liquid to it, so maybe another half a cup. I'm not sure. Maybe a little more the merrier. You do what you want. It's your recipe. Fix it the way you want. As long as you're not doing any thickening agents in it, you should be fine. I got my Worcestershire sauce. Woo, let's put that in there. Fourth a cup maybe in this little batch. Fourth a cup in this one. Just a little bit, because you're going to add that to each batch, so you don't want to overdo it. Okay, I got my 2/3. Okay, I got my pot in the back. I went ahead and dumped it out. It's still got a little white to it, and it's just turning translucent, and it's got a lot of firm pieces still in there. So that's what I want. My little onion there needs to be chopped up, but I ain't worried about it. But you can still see it has a little white. This is the stage I like it. You do it the way you want to. And I went ahead and I added some more onions to the pot in the back. And I'm going to cook it the same way as I did that batch. I've got the lid off this one on high heat, and I'm really cooking this down. Ooh, that looks good. I may try to drain some of this off and put it in here, because we do want liquid. And I'm going to go ahead and drain it and try to get some of the onions to brown on the bottom and get that caramelization, that browning. And so I'm going to go ahead. I don't want to lose that liquid. I think that's what I'll do, is drain this into that batch. So here I go. Okay, you can see I went ahead and brought it over here and added it to the unfinished, so to speak, with still a little firmness onions. I wanted to save that juice. That caramelization batch was really making a lot of juice, and I didn't want to just keep overcooking my onions to get that water out. Matter of fact, I really want this broth for my soup. So we're going to leave
that goodness over here. We're just gonna add it over here. And so I went ahead and drained this first batch. This is still my first 1/3 batch of onions I'm trying to caramelize. It's taking me a little bit, but it really formed a lot of broth from these onions juice. So, you know, the sweating it really formed a lot of juice. So I just drained it. So now I'm going to try to brown a little bit of that on the bottom on high heat. And so don't cook out your, if your onions have gotten to this translucent cooked state where it's done, that is done, and you have a lot of liquid in there, save it, drain it, and put it with the rest of your onions. And just do this small batch, browning it. And because that's what's going to give you flavor, is that onion stock. So I got my second batch back here sweating, and on high heat. I went ahead, low heat was not cutting it out for me. So I got to get things going. So I'm just watching it. So let that sweat and get to where it's just turning, and I'm going to put another batch in till I get all these onions ready. And then I'm going to mix it all together. And then I'm going to add my beef broth, and then we're going to start packing our jars, and then I'll add some water to the jars, hot water. I'm going to go ahead and get my kettle back here with some hot water in it. So that way when I do need to fill up my jars with water, if I don't have enough onion broth, even though I'm adding stock and everything, if it's just not enough, I'm going to go ahead and just pour hot water in there and fill it up to a 1-inch head space. So I'll be back. Okay, I went ahead and drained my caramelized onions several times. It'll take you a while. So if you want to wait and sterilize your jars till right at the last minute, it only takes about 15 minutes to get it up to that heat. You can do that, but I've had my jars here for a while. Went ahead and just kind of turned them off. They're still warm and just sitting in warm water. But it's taken me a while to get this liquid out of this 1/3 of caramelized onions, but it's well worth it. And what I'm doing is draining the actual liquid out as I see it, and I'm putting it in, let me show you. I'm putting it into my bowl here that I'm going to mix everything together with. So here's the stock. So as you can see, this was my second batch. I got it to where it's almost now turning translucent. And so I'm going to start adding my seasonings now. It's ready to turn off and put it with the other. And so I'm not going to cook it any further than this, because you don't want it like all your onions to look like the caramelized onion. This will probably completely almost dissolve in the canner, but this will cook into regular soft onions in the canner. So I added what was left. I'm just eyeballing it. Little pepper into each batch. I'm not going to, did I just put it? Okay, making sure I put it in the right one. This was my second batch. It needs some seasonings. And then my onion powder, garlic powder, onion powder, and some salt. Some salt. Don't put a lot, maybe about a teaspoon, because we got all the wine in here. We're going to pour some wine. I'm just going to eyeball. So each little batch, I'm just putting a little bit in there. I'm just eyeballing about 1/4 cup of each, maybe. And now let's check on our caramelized onions. It's taken me a while, folks, so you got to be patient. That's why I'm saying it's a full day. Now then, do you see that browning on the side there? That's what you want. You want it like a fried onion. Look at that. So I'm not going to do all these onions. That's just enough. That little bit of browning is all I need for flavor. So once I get that little bit of browning, I'm done. I'm turning it off because it's already cooked to almost mush. We don't want to go any further. I just want that little searing on the bottom. But in order to get that little searing, I had to really drain the liquid out, which is okay, because that's making your onion stock for your liquid for your jars. So you just drain it and put it in your batch. And this is ready to add to my batch.
And we got these still sweating just a little bit back here. Nope, I turned it off. So these are perfect. They still got the firmness of the white, but they're starting to turn. See, some of them are turning translucent. It's okay if they're still kind of raw looking, but you see how some of them are turning. That's the state you want them. And anyway, I got all my seasonings in there, my wine, my Worcestershire. I can never say that. Worcestershire, is that how you say it? But I'm going to dump this. Both of these are ready to go. I'm going to dump it into this one. So let me get going on that. Okay, I wanted to show you here. This is my caramelized onions. You can see they're really cooked and they're brown. This is my onions that are just barely half cooked. And so I was running out of room in my big bowls and realized I need Bertha Bessie bowl. So we're going to trade bowls here because I still got a lot more I'm cooking over here and I need Bertha. Big Bertha. Anyway, I'm making a mess in my kitchen. This is real. You're seeing real kitchen stuff here. Look at this. Okay, my Diet Coke. You can't see that. Okay, I hope you can see this. Anyway, this is my onion. This is Bertha, my big old Bertha bowl. My other ones was just not big enough for it. So I had to put all of it in here. I'm going to go ahead and bring in a little bit closer and let you see what it looks like. Okay, so here is my onions all cooked, and just overlook my sink there. But this is it. This is the way it looks. That's 30 pounds of onion, and look at all that stock that's in there. That is going to make it so good. So it has a lot of liquid. I don't have to add a lot to it. It's going to make its own. Here's some of that caramelized onion. You see it a little bit browner. That's going to give it some good flavor. I'm going to go ahead and mix all this together. Get it mixed good. I want the caramelized onions all mixed with the half-cooked onions. Okay. And that smells divine. And we're going to go ahead and I want to taste it a little bit just to make sure. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more garlic powder. And this is your recipe. It's your world, as Bob Ross used to say. Add to it what you want. I'm going to add a little bit more garlic powder, a little bit more onion powder. It's your world. And a little bit more Worcestershire. I like it. Okay. A little bit more wine. Whoop, I don't know how much I just put in there. But it's my world. I can do what I want. And I'm not going to add any more salt and pepper. It tastes really good as it is. And you can always, when you actually make your onion soup, French onion soup, you can add beef broth to it. And you can add whatever flavors you want. Parmesan cheese to it. Grated Parmesan cheese, which I do. I add that to my actual pot when I'm heating it up. And then once it gets cooked with all the flavors and the beef broth, and I'm only going to put what I have on hand. I'm going to add a little bit more liquid. I'm going to put some beef broth with no thickening agents in it. 2 quart size. So this will be my liquid along with the onion stock in there as well. Alright, there you have it. That's my recipe for an onion base for my soup. And it's pretty much almost cooked. You just have to add the cheese and whatever, if you want to add more garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, whatever you want to add to this will be your base. and to make your French onion soup. But you can use this in probably anything you want to use it in. You can use this in stir fries. You can use this in blackened chicken and do your wrap, you know, with some peppers, whatever you want to do. So to me, this looks good. I'm going to give it a quick taste. Wonderful. To me, if I was cooking this, it definitely needs some more salt and seasoning. But I don't want to over salt it. You wait till you cook it on the stove. Alright, there we have it. I'm not going to stick that back in there. Okay, we have our finished base. And I'm going to go ahead and start jarring these up now. Get them ready for canning.